All right, I think that's good. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, the Wozniak, here to talk about how I scan film with my good old trusty V600 Epson here. And I'm going to show you how to get, I guess, the best quality scans that you can get out of this little guy on a budget as well, because this dude's kind of cheap. So a couple things to keep in mind when watching this video. First off, I am not an expert. I don't develop my own film either. I go to a film lab for that. And I actually recommend, if you are going to be doing kind of art prints and art type of photography where you need that extra quality, I do actually recommend getting your film scanned at a film lab, because they have higher quality scanners that'll beat out basically any other scanner. With that said, there are a lot of home setups that you can do that provide great quality film scans. So the thing about Newton rings is that they're sent from hell on earth, and unless you want your image to look like BP spilled oil all over it, you definitely want to avoid them at all costs. So instead of doing what you would normally do, which is just putting it in the guides, closing the scanner and scanning the film, you want to put the Newton ring glass on top of it in order to avoid those rings. So when you're using a flatbed, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. The first thing is cleanliness, because in a lot of cases you're going to get dust on your images a lot easier with a flatbed than you are with like a DSLR scan setup. So the first thing I do every time is I make sure to open this bad boy up, and I just take dust off, and I just kind of go over it and make sure a lot of the dust is off. And then what I do is take the microfiber cloth and I just go over it and give it a nice little wipe down, and boom, you're ready to go. The next thing you want to do is to make sure you have your negatives that you want to scan. I always like to cut my negatives before scanning because it makes it a lot easier, and it's the size of the sensor on this scanner. So you can do that with just scissors if you want. What you're going to want to do is make sure it's lined up where the sensor is. And then you take your anti-Newton ring glass and you give it a nice little wipe down to make sure there's no dust on it or anything like that. Ooh. Make sure you don't drop it like me. And then you're going to want to place it over the top of the negatives. And voila, you're ready to scan. Drop that sucker and then go to the computer. Cool, so we're back at the computer, and now we are going to scan and edit our negatives. There are a couple different softwares that you can use. A lot of people swear by Silverfast if you're on a Windows machine. I'm an old and I still use the original Epson scan because I hate myself. But I recommend using Silverfast or another scanner that has the resolution that you want, but also the speed. This one's a little slower, so be sure not to make the same mistake that I do. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to be in professional mode. You're going to be able to increase your resolution size to where you want to be. I would choose film. Then I would actually scan it in positive film, and we're actually going to use a plugin called Negative Lab Pro in Lightroom that I think is a lot better of an editor than the Epson scan software. Then we're going to do 48-bit color, 2400 DPI. You can uncheck the unsharp mask. Epson scan just puts it in every single time. It's kind of annoying, so I generally just don't even with it. Then we're going to go into our preview view to make sure that it is lined up and ready to go for us. And then we have our images. So what we do now is we'll select a couple. I like this one. What's great about Epson scan and a lot of other softwares is you can actually just go ahead and line these up. And we can do 2 at a time scanning because the future. So what we do is we'll select both of these. We'll hit scan. Then we will let's browse where we're gonna place this. Let's just do it to the desktop. We have that going there where you need to be. We're going to select our type. So there's a couple of different options. You can do bitmap, you can do JPEG, but I just do regular old TIFF. And then what you're gonna wanna do is hit OK, and it's gonna start scanning. And it's gonna take a little while because you are kind of increasing the resolution. So Epson scan takes about I would say 1 to 2 minutes per image. But I've heard Silverfast is a lot better. I recommend going with a scanner software that you prefer. It really doesn't matter what scanner software you're going at, just as long as you get the resolution that you want at the end so that you can throw it into Lightroom. Cool, and it's scanned and it's in the file. And now you do that about however more times you shot your film. Once you have your scans in your Lightroom catalog, you're going to want to develop. And Negative Lab Pro doesn't recommend doing this with your TIFF scans. They recommend actually doing it if you have raw scans. I kind of do it anyways because it kind of gives me at a good basis of where I need to be, which is white balancing. So you just kind of want to white balance the border. And now what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to crop your image. And you don't actually have to even really crop it completely to use this, but then you crop it and then you go into your plugins and then Negative Lab Pro is there. And it comes up with this little convert negatives thing. And you go, yep, convert me, daddy. And there you go, there you have it. Now, this is very much contrasty. It's not really the style I go for. So what I like to do is go for a softer look maybe. They have all these presets. You can do cinematic rich, log, flat, cinematic flat, soft, highlight soft, all that good stuff. Let's do cinematic flat. And let's increase the brightness. And what you want to do with your scans in this stage is try to get as much information out of the photo as possible. So I actually recommend kind of lowering that contrast, really kind of increasing that exposure a bit. You can even light it up a little bit here. You push the whites down a little bit. And then what I always do is I do soft lows and I always do -15, and it gives it that filmic flat look that you kind of want. So after you have your image kind of where you want in Negative Lab, which actually let's do warm. Ugh, I don't like that actually. Cool. Let's do neutral, but let's warm it up a little bit here. And then we can actually go into our mids and kind of adjust depending on what we need to do. I think there's too much green in the highlights there. Shadows, I like having a little bit of cyan, a little bit of green. Give it that cool look. You know, it actually looks better, I think, in red because it's contrasting with the white here. So what you're gonna want to do is make a copy. You can stack or you can add a subfolder. I recommend adding a subfolder because when you stack photos in Lightroom, it can sometimes get really annoying. And then apply. And I know what you're thinking. You're already thinking, but Joe, look at all of these fucking Newton rings. And I say, yeah, it sucks. And that's what you have to deal with when you're dealing with a flatbed scanner, which is why it's a lot cheaper than a DSLR setup. Now, I am gonna get a DSLR setup eventually, and I'll definitely do a video in the future on how to scan with that. But, you know, if you're balling on a budget, this is the next best thing. And to be honest, when you actually do post or upload images, you don't actually see the Newton rings that much. You really only see them if you're printing. You can edit them out pretty easily if they do come up. Now, sometimes if it's like over a facial structure, like a complicated pattern or a complicated texture, it can get a little bit more complicated to edit out, but in this case, it gets the job done. So that's what we want to do. We have our scans here, so now we're going to edit them, I guess. Everything is as it should be. Add some of that contrast back a little bit. Let's see. Let's add some contrast. And you know, a lot of people who shoot film, they don't really want to edit too much. And I understand that, because you really want the authenticity of the film to really shine through. Now we're gonna go into the big boy panel, which is the curves. And look at that. I'm gonna bring some of that down. Keep it relatively flat. I always like to flatten my darks to really give it that filmy look. And yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video and you want more kind of tutorial videos like this, just let me know. But yeah, I love doing this and I can't wait to actually upgrade this system to where it's a bit better flow, better calibration, better all around general good